Hello and welcome to this week's episode of QTV. Wow, have we got a great lineup tonight.
We'll be talking to the fabulous Tiwi Island Sistagirls, who have come down all the way south to Sydney to march in the Mardi Gras with pride.
We'll take a fascinating glimpse into the lead up to the show King for a Day, plus some great stage performances.
We will also talk to former Pentecostal preacher Anthony Venn-Brown about the horrors of former aversion therapy when he did an interview on Saturday Magazine.
And we go back in time to meet the flamboyant Freddie Asmussen, who masterminded the Maya Store window displays in the 1950s.
I bet he was a character test.
Absolutely. And a lot of fun.
Sure.
Mardi Gras 2017.
Sean Caranoa.
Anastasia Vigona.
And what group are you with?
Tiwi Island Sistagirls.
Why did you want to come to Mardi Gras specifically?
We have never experienced a Mardi Gras in our life, so we wanted to come down to Sydney to join with others that have been marching for years, and we wanted to, celebrate. There's only one word on Tiwi Island for gay, and that's in Balinese. We try not to use that word because it's very hurtful for someone if you're describing someone who identifies as the LGBTIQ. It's a Tiwi word that it's very hurtful word to use.
And Balinese is sort of a word they hit the emotional side. So they use that word as a Balinese as a direct arrow towards our soul and try and break us down.
How do you feel?
Good, very good. We're so excited to be here.
Being a sister girl, I still have knowledge and culture, laws that I have to obey and observe to. But I continue on to do it as whatever roles that I play and to continue on doing. I can either do it in female, I can either do it in male. So it's more accepted what roles that you take on.
It's not about how can we do it, but we can do it together as a cultural. And we have to do it because we have to do it because that's our lives. We live our lives the way we live.
I understand this. You've had some problems with suicide.
Yes, it was a high rate of suicide, but
what's happened?
At the end of the day, we deal with it, and we deal with the best we can.
We're all close with each other, sisters. Again, the other girls, we make weekends with the girls at Melbourne Island.
We gather.
We gather.
We sing. We dance together. We have laughed. We joke.
But you don't have sex with each other.
We don't.
That's where the sister girls plays a very important part. We don't have sex with each other.
Who do you have sex with?
Bisexuals, straight men's. Yeah, so
Closet.
Yeah,
closet. But going back on sister girls why can't sister girls have sex with each other? Because there is culture and there's kingship. So culture, kingship and tribe. Anastasia here is my daughter. In Aboriginal way, I am not allowed to have sex with her because she is my daughter. Her mother is my sister, and it's showing you, it's telling me that there is a kingship between the family kingship line, and there is the tribe. Your mother tribes give you the identity of who you belong within the the tribe. The top tribe is the sun, the bottom tribe is the rock, and on the side of those two groups, top and bottom, are the fish, the mullet fish and the banana fish, and so that the sun is only allowed to marry the fish, the mullet tribe and the pandanus. They're not allowed to marry the rock clan, and the pandanus, they're not allowed to marry each other. They're allowed to marry the sun or the rock. So that's the kingship, and that's the tribe. So it's not, that's the law of the Tiwi Island. It's been on for thousands of years. So,
and we still play an important part of that, passing on knowledge, and that's how we still probably want to keep it that way. Again, using that sister girl title or name, not to go with each other and things like that. We treat each other like sisters.
They wanted to be true to their self and be true to their body and soul and spiritual as well.
And we're all excited and ready.
Next up, we have King for a Day.
Today we'll be running a King for a Day workshop where new drag kings are now transforming inside. Their face, their clothes, we've been customising, we've been making packages, all ready for tonight, where some of them will be performing for the very first time here on the stage. So there's some nervous performers back there, madly gluing, madly putting their faces on for tonight for King for a Day Cabaret. The difference of a face now. This is a colourless fixing powder. This stuff lasts forever. It's great. So it's colourless, so we don't get any residue on it. I always like to pat. See the little shades of them. Is it? Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah. So this is a light cream. This is like a chestnut brown. We've got a that's a real chocolate brown. That's a dark chocolate brown. It's sort of a light chocolatey brown. You probably need you need a mid-tone, you need a highlighter, and you need that darker tone. And then with those colours.
All right, so let's give it up for our next performer.
Always runs while others walk. He acts while other men just talk. He looks like he's loving a woman. I've been walking these streets so long, singing the same old song. I know every crack in these dirty sidewalks of Broadway, where hustle's the name of the game, and nice guys get washed away like the snow and the rain. There's been a load of compromising on the road to my horizon, but I'm gonna be where the lights are shining on me like a rhinestone star. Some people I don't even know, and offers coming over the phone. I walk along the city streets you used to walk along with me, and every step I take reminds me of just how it used to be. But how can I forget you, girl, when there is always something there to remind me? Everybody's looking at my tight pants. I got my tight pants. I got my tight pants on. I'm the only guy in town wearing tight pants. I got my tight pants. I got my tight pants on. I'm the guy wearing tight pants. I got my tight pants. I got my tight pants on. The magic in the autumn mist in a land called Honolulu. Little Jackie Baker loved that rascal pump and broken strings and sealing wax and other fancy stuff. Oh, Puff, the magic dragon, lived by the sea, and Freddie kept a lookout perched on Puff's gigantic, gigantic, gigantic tail.
You're not afraid of dragons, are you?
Isn't it great to see some King drag shows? A spectacular performance and stage show as well. Really interesting.
Absolutely.
Now we've got an interview with Anthony Venn-Brown, a former Pentecostal church preacher who went through the horrors of aversion therapy. It's a great interview from Joy 94.9 on Saturday Magazine.
Our next guest is Anthony Venn-Brown, who was once a Pentecostal preacher.
I sure was. I was a very high-profile preacher. So, in the 80s, if you were in a Pentecostal church, you would know who Anthony Venn-Brown was. Well, you would have known him as Tony Venn-Brown then. And
Right.
so, I used to preach at all the big mega churches, such as Hillsong and all over Australia. I was preaching to sometimes 5,000 people at once. To have lived in that era, really, you understand the terror and the horror of discovering that you're same-sex attracted, because that doesn't mean you're gay, it means you're a pervert. When I was in Bible college, I was going through exorcisms. I was desperate to change, and I knew two things. One, that I should keep it a secret, and second, I should do everything I could to try and change it. So during my final year at high school, I got very depressed. I attempted suicide. I went to a psychiatrist, and he thought I was going through a bit of a phase. I just needed to love my father more, and but then I turned to God.
So you used faith as a way to actually push away your sexuality or deny your sexuality.
Well, I thought, you know, if anything can change this, it will be God.
Because you felt that there was something about you that was wrong.
Oh, totally, yeah. This has to be changed, and I need a miracle, and I need divine help. And so that took me into that journey, and I was one of the first in the world to actually go through a religious gay conversion therapy program.
And so, look, just briefly, what did that involve?
Well, you've referred to it as an exorcism.
Well, you know, the exorcism was different from the rehab, but it was in that time at the beginning of the charismatic movement that exorcisms was something which were practiced a lot, and of course, seeing homosexuality as being evil, a demonic force, then, you know, that was part of it. But in the rehab type situation, it was very much that I was, you know, I had to dress a certain way, I had to do masculine tasks, lots of Bible reading and prayer, virtually to try and put you in a really environment where you'll never get tempted or never fall, in inverted commas, and then you get your strength back, and they believe that naturally your heterosexuality would start to come forward. You know, I ended up getting married. I left the program after about 6 months because it was very abusive and oppressive, and then a couple of years later, then I met a lovely woman, and I thought, this is it. This is this is going to be God's answer.
You've cracked the straight manual codes after all.
And so were you? I mean, so you were sexually attracted, and you had, and you found, and you fell in love with her, and all the usual things that you do.
No, I purposely kept it as quiet as possible about my past. I didn't want to be known as a former homosexual, because I knew I wasn't. You know, I was still doing beats.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you were still sexually active while you were married and while you were a preacher.
So in A Life of Unlearning...
Yes, this is your book, so we just need to mention that.
You refer to a chance meeting, that's right, which changed everything.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, look, I might get a bit emotional. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
We're used to it here. There have been a lot of tears in this studio.
Yeah, look, my life had been very much sexual encounter of 30 seconds, 60 seconds, you know, never any tenderness, never any warmth or affection, or wouldn't even exchange names. And then what would happen is, you know, then afterwards I'd hate myself. I promised God it would never happen
cycle
again.
For so
just
many
went
people.
on and on. And this one night, I met this guy, and I called him Jason in the book, and something happened because I had a motel room, and he came back, and he did something to me, which was way beyond the physical.
It touched your heart.
It touched my heart.
So
it touched my soul, my inner self. And I was in an ecstatic state. And I remember at the end, he gave me his telephone number. He says, I'd like to see you again if you're in Brisbane. And I said, sorry, I never see a person a second time, you know, which, of course, that was dangerous. And then, but I sort of thrown the telephone number away. I kept it, and all weekend I couldn't stop thinking about him because I had been changed by that intimate encounter, which, as I say, it was way beyond the physical. It was spiritual. It was emotional.
So that was a turning point for you.
Yeah.
Was that the start of acceptance? Was there a turning point there around you perhaps accepting who you are?
I opened a door, which, of course, people in the conservative world would say, well, of course you opened the door, that, you know, you gave into your homosexuality. But I opened the door to honesty and to truth.
What a great actor Anthony Venn-Brown would have made. I think he lived such opposite roles in life. I think he could probably take on anything.
But you know, I'm sure standing up and preaching to people is very much an acting role in itself.
Absolutely.
Very entertaining.
Next up, a moment in time, we'll take a look at the flamboyant Freddie Asmussen.
We think of Melbourne in the 1950s and 60s as a pretty dreary place, and for the most part it was. But one of those who did his best to bring colour and liveliness to the city was Fred Asmussen, Freddie to his friends. When people remember him, it's often for his houses. He moved around a lot and redecorated with enthusiasm. There was the Mount Eliza house with its tented rooms, the Toorak Road terrace set up like a Venetian palace, all gilt furniture, draped walls, dinner parties that seated 20. Or the Spring Street apartment, absolutely white, carpets, walls, ceiling, furniture, everything. Freddie was also a Melbourne celebrity, head of display for Myers department store, designing and redesigning all the product displays, the windows, anything that would lure people in to spend their money. He was a perfectionist. He ruled his staff with a rod of iron, with tantrums and screaming. And yet his staff, the window dressers, were loyal to him, even loved him, and called themselves Freddie's boys. Freddie's boys were good-looking, creative young men, and camp, or gay, as we would say today. At a time when the mere suspicion of sexual deviation could get you fired, this was no insignificant thing. Freddie's sexual taste ran to real men, so there was nothing sus about him hiring good-looking young men to work in his department. He seems to be just a man helping out people like himself. Plus, of course, there was the well-known fact that camp men all had style and flair. Freddie barely bothered to conceal his sexuality. He was known to wander the store, flower in hand, dressed to the nines. But then he didn't really need to. He was indispensable to Myers, and he was adored by Dame Merlin Meyer, matriarch of the family, his patron and protector. In return, he would design her parties, and they would be special events indeed. Parties at home, or at the town hall, or any venue where she wanted to present herself could be transformed. There was rumoured to be a hidden room in Myers where Freddie kept everything that he might need for his displays that he collected from his overseas trips. These could be rolled out for any big event as well. On one occasion, it's said that he rolled out his own boys, Freddie's boys, to serve as blackamoors lining the driveway to the event. A memorable event indeed.
So he indeed was a flamboyant character, and boy, I bet he threw some parties, Tess.
I would have loved to have been at one.
But that's it for today. We've had another great show. We talked to the Tiwi Island Sistagirls. We looked at the King for a Day King Drag Show. We spoke to Anthony Venn-Brown, a formal Pentecostal preacher, and we had a look at the moment in time back at Freddie Asmussen, who was the window dresser at Maya. But thanks for another great show today with us here on QTV. Look for more from us next week. Good night.
Bye for now.
You're not afraid of dragons, are you?